Hey JD, we're live and we're still dancing. We're still dancing. We're going to San Antonio. How about that?
Here's what I got to say about that.
We can't hear it.
Uh,
He's trying. This is what technical difficulties for the almost 70-year-old here.
can't hear it?
Nope.
The Bee Gees. We should be dancing. Yeah, we're getting up. We're dancing. We should be dancing.
Mm, mm.
Absolutely. We're dancing.
All right. While you dance, I'll talk. So
Okay.
This was the Con Knipple game. We've had a Tyrese Proctor game. We've had a Cooper Flag game. How good was Con Knipple today on a game where it's hard to dance. It's hard to
All
talk.
right.
Um,
All right. All right.
how good was
We
Con
got
today? Man, he was awesome. He was just awesome. The combination of Con on offense and come on defense, and then the guards as a collective just I don't let me check. How many threes did Alabama finished with 8 threes after connecting on 25 in their last game. We knew this was going to be a different game, but I didn't I mean, I thought Duke was going to win. I didn't think Duke was going to win by 20 and hold Alabama to their second worst scoring performance of the season. It was a defensive masterpiece by the Blue Devils against Alabama.
look. Clearly in the pregame, a lot of things I didn't see coming. 20-point win, didn't see that coming. But we've always known there's two parts to Duke's game. And offense, I mean, not too shabby. We had 85 points. Not too shabby,
Pretty damn good.
pretty damn good against Alabama. But we also know that when we want to put the clamp down on defense, that defense was so good. There was none of this BYU, we're going under the screen. This was just shifting. They couldn't get off their three-pointers. They never found a rhythm. We led that game wire to wire.
Wire to wire. We punched him in the mouth in the first segment, and we started off the game with a shot clock violation. How many? I have no idea, but how many shot clock violations has Alabama had? They like to shoot the ball. You know, Nate Oates is basically a Mike D'Antoni disciple. He's all offense, not much defense of late, although he's had some good defensive teams. And I can't imagine they've had more than 10 shot clock violations on the season. To start the game like that set the tone. And obviously Flag hitting his three-pointer to start the game was important. It set the tone for Duke. He did not play. I could hear that. That's interesting. He didn't play great today offensively, but he had a good defensive game. And we're moving to San Antonio.
We're dancing.
How
We're
much fun is
dancing.
this? How much fun is this? We we get to watch one more game of this Duke team. Like,
Excuse me, that'll be two more games of this Duke team.
okay, at least one more game, I should say. But man, contributions across the board. This was talk about a total team effort. You know, everybody fulfilling their role from Khan to Kaman to Proctor, who hit a number of big shots in this one. Sion with his defense. Cooper had a good defensive game. And then, you know, Gangba had a couple of nice passes. Evans had a dunk. I thought he had played good defensively overall as well. And then Foster,
Caleb's minutes.
big
Caleb
time.
was big time. Big time. You know, going back to Shire saying we're going to need you if we're going to go deep. And, you know, not that he is the story tonight, and I know you want to get to your medals, but his time on the court was value added, as opposed to
100%. His
as opposed to the nights that he wasn't.
his defense was on point, doing a good job on the smaller Alabama guards. He had like a layup early. He hit a really big three because it had
It's
got
great.
to it had got to 37-31 with about 3 minutes to go in the first half, and it was a 9-2 Alabama run. And I think it was Flagg who found Foster, and he nailed it. He stepped in with confidence, which at times, his confidence has waned, and that was awesome. It was a huge moment, a big three by Foster, but there's a lot of big moments. Like also at the start of the game, Khan saved the ball. It was going out of bounds, and he is like falling out of bounds. Somehow, has the presence of mind to notice. I'm gonna butcher his name. Amori. I got it right. Amori was like behind him. He throws it over Amori to get it to come on, because otherwise it would have probably been Alabama ball on their side of the court. And there's just so many like small plays like that, and it was a chess match, between the coaches for sure in terms of matchups. But really, this came down to Duke's defense versus Alabama's defense, and as the game went on, that gap widened, and it ended up with a 20-point Duke victory. But the story of this game is Duke's defense,
So
and
completely. Because even if you wanted, talk about Coop's stat line, which was, anyone else would be happy with those numbers. Probably nice contribution overall. Definitely not Coop's best game. I mean, definitely not. So he's saving that for the Final Four. I'm glad it's in the bank. I'm really happy about that. But overall, the team defense. I mean, Tibbs would be thrilled to have coached this team tonight.
Tibbs. Coach Shire is thrilled, I'm sure, because we've seen they showed a clip of the Arizona game. It was funny. I'm sure some people have seen this on the Duke YouTube. The players were given an impersonation of Coach Shire, and they would say, they haven't really felt us yet. They haven't felt us. And during the halftime of the Arizona game, he said that. And listen, Arizona hit a lot of tough shots, but Duke still gave up, what was it, 93 points. And I was a little bit worried coming into this one, even though this was the matchup I wanted. When Selection Sunday happened. And because of our defense wasn't quite locked in, I was a little bit nervous, have to admit. But this is certainly a defensive performance that Coach Shire, when they go back to the locker room, he can say, yeah, they know what our defense is about. And it was the combination of the guards, Sion and Proctor and Foster and Khan, doing a great job on the perimeter. And then, Malawach completely changed the game, so much so that Coach Oates was doing his best to match up Aiden Sherrell's minutes with Malawach, because he wanted to pull him out of the paint as much as possible. And it didn't work. Malawach, not only did he protect the rim, he guarded on the perimeter, he rebounded, he was everywhere. And it's so much so that I didn't end up doing this, but I was thinking about for the medals, like to give the gold for Khan on offense and then give another gold for Kaman on defense. He was just awesome in this game.
What? Why wouldn't you do that?
I feel like
I only gave one goal back. I mean,
yeah.
it was the offensive side of the ball was definitely it was Khan's night, but Mal, as the announcer said, it wasn't just in the first half. There was a great block shot by him, an emphatic block shot, and an emphatic block shot also by Cooper Flagg. But in the second half, as they couldn't get their open three, and I'm curious, what was their percentage from 3-point? Because you told us how many threes they had. So they let them in, and Mal just like Sears is going to have a long night.
He's not getting much sleep tonight. Him and the Texas Tech team. You know, they're gonna be in a group chat all night because they can't go to sleep. But to that point, a funny stat for me. So the second half, I don't know. I would have to kind of do the math, right? The second half stat. This is very interesting. So total threes in the second half. If I'm correct, I could be off here by one or two. There was only 4 3-pointers made combined by both teams. Duke had one 3-pointer in the second half, and it was that late one by Tyrese Proctor. Alabama hit three. But to your point, and this was the thing with Duke coming into this game, because of Malawatch, they can force you off the 3-point line and guard the paint and flag, in fairness. And with that being said, you've got to have guys who can shoot the mid-range shot, who can take tough twos. And it's tough for Alabama because they are quite literally coached to not shoot those shots. And those were the ones that were available. So it's hard to have a whole season where you're playing one way and now all of a sudden you can't play that way because of Duke's defense. And it was a masterclass defensively. So before I say the medals and then we go to the stats, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video here, and we want to hear from you guys in the chat. So my medals for today, before I forget until we're at this 15 minutes in. The gold is Con Knipple. From the first minute to the last, he was just on point. I'll get to the stats in a little bit, but just the way he played, his composure, his ability to get into the paint, his passing, his shooting, and then his defense. It was just a complete game from Con Knipple. And if there weren't names on the back of their jerseys and somebody hadn't watched Duke all year and this was their first time and they've been hearing about Cooper Flagg, you could have easily convinced them that Con Knipple was Cooper Flagg if you had no idea.
All right, so you were probably setting up. I'm not certain you saw Allie LaForce interviewing Con after the game.
I did.
And okay, so that she said, how did you, what did it take for you to perform that way? And his quote, "I'm a slow guy." And she said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" She goes, "I just kind of slow everything down." And that's how it really is. He's not flamboyant. He is just insanely efficient. And his defense and his knowledge of the court. And I think back to, they're teasing him about his parents. They're teasing him about everything. And the fact that he played in his father's league against older guys for years, the fact that he just, it was just a great game. All right, that's your gold medal. Sorry.
The silver, which in fairness could easily have been the gold. And if you guys disagree with me, drop in the chat. I've got no problem with this. Come on, Malawatch. Phenomenal game. He impacted the game. I talked a lot about his defense already, but his offense with his ability, not just the lob threat, but his screens, because they freed up a lot of other guys, and his intelligence. And how about this? At the end of the game, it says a lot about Kama Malawatch, the person. And if you haven't watched the YouTube video that they put out today on Malawatch Dream Biggest, you gotta watch it. It's great. At the end of the game, he gets the offensive rebound. There's 16 seconds to go, and he could easily dunk it, and he doesn't, and he passes it out. And that says a lot about Kama Malawatch, the person. And we've watched a lot of him. We know this, us Duke fans. But for people who don't get to see him behind the scenes, that said a lot. And then,
I think he also did that as a person, not to run up the score and to sort of like dunk on him. And I think you're right about that. But I think he also had the presence of mind, unless Shire was yelling at him on that play. There were 15 seconds left, so he passed it out to finish the clock. And that way he didn't give the ball back to Alabama. So it might have been a little of both.
Not that it would have mattered. They were up by 20. And then the bronze, and then I've got one more. before we go to the stats. The bronze for me is Tyrese Proctor. I thought he hit a number of tough shots, tough twos, and his defense all game.
All game.
He was locked in. He wasn't giving up threes. He drew an offensive foul. He was just spectacular today, and he didn't. It wasn't like the first two games of the tournament where he just hit every 3-pointer imaginable. He hit a lot of 2-point shots in this one. Says a lot about his versatility. And my last one, which I think it was Pay the Piper who had this idea a few weeks ago, and I'm not going to use this all the time, but I'm going to give out the platinum medal, and that's to Coach Shire, who I think completely outcoached Nate Oates, who his game plan in terms of taking away the 3-pointers from Alabama, and then offensively, as the game wore on, Duke became very deliberate offensively, with Shire having them walk the ball up, change the pace of the game, where in the first half there was a lot more opportunities for Alabama to get out and run. They took that away in the second half and made Alabama go up against Duke's half-court defense, which they really struggled against all game. So I think Shire had a great coaching performance in this one.
He did, and the guy that implemented it was Sion James. Sion's, you talk about bringing the ball up deliberately. I don't know what he went from the free throw line. They fouled him. I don't think maybe he missed one. I don't know if he did. What did Duke do as a team from the free throw line?
We'll pull up the stats. So, I lost you, JD. I don't know what happened there. Oh, wait, I got you back. All right, I messed that up. So, 19 of 22 from the free throw line as a team. And Sion, to your point, 5 of 6.
5 of 6. And so 19 of 22, which that was a trademark of most nights of this Duke team, but also of championship Duke teams, that when they got to the free throw line, that was one of the times we would relax and talk about free throw shooting in the game before with
Texas Tech.
With Florida shooting 26 of 28. But we don't care about them just yet. This is the recap show. All right.
Con finished with 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. He was just awesome. Come on, Malawach, 14 points, 9 rebounds, an assist, a steal, and 2 blocks, although it felt like, as they said at the end, many more. Tyrese Proctor, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 7 of 10 from the field. He was talk about efficient. Cooper, 16 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. He did have 4 turnovers. I think he actually had 5 or maybe 6. But it's okay. We're moving on. We're going to get a better Cooper performance, no doubt about it, in the Final Four. Sion had 9 points, 7 rebounds from your point guard. That's incredible. And we talked about
any turnovers for Sion.
He had 1 turnover.
1 turnover
in the first half.
So I think your point is well taken, that it was a game plan devised by Coach Shire, but he needed his floor general, and tonight I really do believe it was Sion.
Yep. Foster, he was our biggest contributor off the bench. 5 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists for Caleb. And Gangba, also 3 assists in this one. Evans had a bucket, and that's it for, I guess, the only other stat I should bring up before we move on to the chat here. Alabama, 23 of 65 from the field, 8 of 32 from the 3-point line.
Woo!
That was
not
just an awesome.
Win.
No, you're not. I mean, unless you've got a defense like a Houston or a Tennessee, which we'll see, either one of those teams in the Final Four, you can't play defense the way Alabama does and then shoot the way they did and expect to win. So just a great a great win by this Duke team. All right, JD, let's go to the chat. Unless you have any final thoughts here.
No, let's bring the family into this discussion.
Yes, let's do it. All right, Laura Markle. Duke is still dancing. Final four. Here comes Duke. San Antonio. Here comes Duke. 2 more to go. And Joe M. By the way, Joe, you got the win tonight, buddy. You're the closest, 92-78. You're the biggest spread of anybody. So you won with your 14-point spread. You've got 2 wins now, and I still haven't gone back through the Arizona one because no one was really close. But I got to attribute a winner because somebody had to win. So you've got 2 wins, and Midnight West has 3. So there is a chance that you could catch them. Joe M says, let's go. Duke locked in on their defense during the second half and suffocated them. That's a good word. That's a good word to describe it. Laura Markle again. I knew when I saw Duke play against Kentucky in person at the Championship Classic and then in person at the ACC tournament. That's right, Laura was at the ACC tournament. I remember that now. That this team was going to win it all. And then she adds, dance, JD. And Nathan also says, let's go. JD acting like how we all feel right now. Come on, JD, give us another. Let's get another round.
One more. For the benefit of our family, we've got everyone up. Come on. I know you're up. I know you're dancing. Come on. We should be dancing. Oh, yeah. We should be dancing. All right. Let's go to the chat.
All right. Michael Joyner, Duke. No, we're all in this. We're all in the ride here, Michael. Made it to the Final Four. We sure did. Joe M. Holy turnovers. That Malik steal to Foster's 3 was critical. I totally forgot that Malik had come up with the ball there. It's the second straight game where the Arizona game, he had a similar play. He only plays 3 minutes or 2 minutes. It's the guy's steal per minute rate is gotta be at like an all-time level, and he's got 1 arm. It's, man, imagine he was playing. All right, Ryan Jones, let's go. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, Ryan.
Happy birthday.
What a birthday present this was for you. And not only did Duke win, but, in the last couple minutes, I'm sure you got to relax a little bit as well. So, happy birthday, Ryan. Amazing win. If we play defense like this, like that, we are seeing 6. Yeah. Best defensive performance of the year. Far and away. Against this Alabama team. This just awesome. Ryan Jones, Coop didn't even have a good offensive game, and we still won by 20. Just wow, man. Love this team. Kind of sad there's only 2 more games. Yeah, all right, first let me take the first part of what Ryan said. It wasn't a good it was a bad offensive game by Coop. I think he would say that. And to your point, Ryan, still won by 20. And Coop defensively, he didn't let his offense affect his defense, which I think we've got a lot of high character players on this team, and I think that says a lot about Coop, because a lot of guys, they're playing the way that Coop was, especially through the majority of this game. He kind of got a couple buckets late. They would kind of let that affect their energy defensively. And he only got more energized defensively as the game went on.
And if history of this season is any indication, when Coop knows that he did something wrong or may have cost them the game, wasn't, the early games when he had to correct a couple of turnovers there, he's going to look at the highlights of this, and as quote unquote bad a performance on offense as was for Coop, it'll be Florida the next game. They better have a good plan.
No. It's going to be Houston or Tennessee. Two of the top 5 defenses. They will.
So I keep getting messed up because tonight it was not the two that
I
face each other
listen.
yet.
All right, I'm glad you brought that up. I don't understand why this happens in the NCAA tournament. I would love to know, but it doesn't seem like, all right. It's not necessarily like the most unfair thing, I should say, but the number of days in between isn't the same. So you've got Florida, who will play the winner of Auburn or Michigan State, and they'll have one less day. And then same with the winner of Houston and Tennessee. And this happened from the first weekend to the second weekend as well. And I don't understand why they're not lined up together. So the number of days in between are the same for each team. I I would just love to know. I would just love to know. And
That's okay. My friends on the West Coast who are my age want to know why they have to stay up so late in order to watch Duke.
well, that's another thing that was kind of weird. I understand why they did it for the TV on this one, but it's just bizarre that the game in San Francisco starts at 6 o'clock, and the game in I guess Newark started at 9. Like, that doesn't quite add up, but that's where we are. We're in a TV world. Um, CJ Cav. First off, before I get to CJ's comment, shout out to all of you guys who've been on this journey with us throughout the season. A lot of you have been with us through the start of this season until now. So it's been really fun to have everybody on this journey. CJ says, 4 down, 2 to go. This team checks every single box. Our mixture of elite offense and a juggernaut defense will take us all the way to number 6.
Couldn't agree more. Cutting down nets.
Joe M. You could see how much this game meant to all these players, especially Proctor, Foster, and Gillis. There's a period where Shire subbed out Flag for Gillis, and you could see his determination rub off on the other guys. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Gillis, I gotta tell you, I've seen a couple of interviews with him, and it's been pretty fun for me to see his interviews where they're like, Gillis, Mason, you just won the ACC, tournament championship. How do you feel? Yeah, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Mason, you just won, the first round of the, NCAA tournament. How do you feel? Are you excited? No, doesn't matter. You just won, the Sweet 16 game. How do you feel? I don't care. But you see him in little moments, like after they won the Sweet 16 game, they showed some footage. He was really excited. You see him, as Joe was saying, he was really excited. But for Mason, more than anybody else, he knows what it's like to get to the championship game and not win it all. And I think that's where he's coming from, in that unless you win it all, it doesn't matter. And I think, to Joe's point, it's great to have Mason Gillis's experience on this team. And I still think him and Isaiah Evans will have a game where they hit some threes for this Duke team. And we've got at least one more, but hopefully 2 more games for that to happen.
Well, we said early on, in the beginning of the season, that the 3 of them, Sion James, Mason Gillis, and you think this
Come on.
It's almost midnight, and Malik Brown doesn't get a lot of playing time, but even his 1 minute or 2 minutes, that the 3 of them were the stabilizing factors of this team. And boy, that was so well recruited through the portal to bring those 3 guys in. They've made major contributions to the overall, this team from the very beginning. Shire has said it. This team was built for a long run in the tournament. He needed height. He needed defense. He went back to thinking about why they lost in the Elite Eight. Not certain anything could have stopped. The Elite Eight game was DJ
NC State.
Burns.
Yeah,
It was
DJ
NC.
Burns. The only person who stopped DJ Burns was Zach Edey, and we didn't have Zach Edey.
No, but we have Kaman Malowich.
That's
I would
true.
have liked. I would have liked to have seen if it would have come out any better. In any case, Shire said the last 12 minutes of the NC State Elite Eight game haunted him, and he said, "What do I need to build a team that can go further?" Because he goes to the Elite Eight last year, Final Four this year. His first year,
second round. He's gone a little bit further each year. So it's a credit to him. I think the only other piece you didn't mention was shooting. Even though last year's team had good shooting, he didn't honestly, the shooting is better this year, and the team is bigger and better defensively. And that's important because a lot of times, of late, there's been comparisons with like Zion season and Coop season. And I think one of the big differences with those teams is that this team surrounding Coop is much more well constructed. And that goes, with getting the guys like Sion and Mason who are, and Malik. I can't forget Malik. He's unfortunately hasn't been able to play, but when he plays, that guy is incredible. And I know basically everyone's a pro in college now, but those guys are like seasoned veterans. They have routines, they know what they're gonna do. And I think that's rubbed off on, the freshmen that we have. And then getting Proctor to come back for his third year, and that Foster has certainly had an up and down year, to say the least. But as Shire said, and as at least I've said, I don't know, I can't say for you for certain, JD, but there was gonna be a time where we needed him, and this team is what you want a team to be. At the end of the day, there are, I hate to say this because it's what they say a lot of times, but they are just really well connected, and you could tell that they enjoy being around each other, which is a big part of being a team that battles and is tough and is willing to go, that extra mile for each other. And it's that's a credit to Coach Shire, and it's a credit to our former lead recruiter, Jay Lucas, who is certainly on the trail for a lot of these guys. So I know he's not on the run for this, but he was a part of putting this team together. So got to give him credit for that.
No question about it. And that ACC tourney run, winning the championship without Cooper Flagg, I think that's part of what also happened tonight, that in a night that Cooper Flagg's offense was not up to his standards, the rest of the team said, "We got you. Don't worry about it." We got 85 points tonight, of which only 16 were Flagg. Last game, we had 130 were Flaggs. And I think that was the point we made after the last round, was that even though Khan and he combined for 50, the rest of the team combined for 50.
That, Coop had 16 points, but he had 16 shots. Like, he wasn't, and a lot of turnovers. I think let's talk about this. Let me ask you a question, actually, do you think Duke wins this game without Cooper going down in the ACC tournament? Because I think a lot of guys gained confidence. Kind of pun intended there. Playing in those 3 games basically without Cooper and having to be, the offense and the engine, especially with Khan. Do you think they win this game if that doesn't happen?
Well, yes, in the sense that if Coop was part of that ACC run, they would have also developed in a slightly different way, but I think they would have won the ACC. However, that's exactly the point here, which is because they won it without Cooper Flagg, on a night that he couldn't be, Superman, where his offense flagged a little, as long as we're going to keep punning here. All right, let's go back to the chat.
All right, Joe M. Malawach was unstoppable. I think Alabama as a team, especially their no, I mean actually forget it. What I was gonna say. As a team, they're gonna be the next time they go on a court, they have a game, whatever. They're going to be seeing Malawach, as like a hologram out there. It's gonna be he's still gonna be there. Um, he was incredible. Nathan May, Khan is an easy gold. And then he says, I'm going to say man for silver. Yeah, they were those two guys. They were the clear stars. And then I think Proctor was our bronze. Tyler Keller, let's go Duke. Laura Markle.
Yeah.
Versus SEC teams this season. Duke 241 to SEC 220 in points scored against. Duke has outscored the 3 SEC teams by 21. I'm glad you brought that up, Laura. I'm really disappointed in Kentucky that they couldn't get past Tennessee. I was really hoping that they would somehow make a run to the Final Four, so that specifically could change against them. Because I think if Duke played that Kentucky team, and I'm going to say it because we can't ever see this now, but I think if Duke would have played that Kentucky team in January, they would have beat them by 15 or more. It just, they saw them at the right time for Kentucky. But it doesn't matter.
The only thing I'll add to that is for all the grief we got from the Kentucky fan base, bye-bye.
That's a good way to end it. John Martin. This is well done. The SEC can kiss my ACC. Go Duke. Well done, John. Thank you for saying it in a way I could read it out here. Laura Markle. I would have loved to have seen Spencer Hubbard out there against Holloway. It looked like Hubbard was the same height as him. One thing I will say for Holloway, he hit that 1 3-pointer in the first half from like 6 feet from the half court line. That was impressive.
Well, and if you want to go all the way back to the beginning of the game, Coop's 3 to start the game, there was no indication that he was going to have the offensive game. It looked like he was out of the gate.
Grant Nelson had a mental lapse there where he just laid off of him, gave him a ton of space, and the way Coop's been shooting since he turned 18, you can't do that. He just in shot with his dad back in Maine. Those two things have really changed his season. The wake up 0-11 Duke Nation, stand up, and then Joe M has got some dancing emojis in here. Cato 12. Let's go. Too small. Get them scrubs out of here. And Lawrence Freeman, so proud of Duke's defense tonight. Shout out Lawrence. Yeah, I agree. I'm so impressed. I think I've said I have no more words to say about the defense because I think I've said a lot, and I hate repeating myself. So if I come up with any new adjectives, I will throw them out there. You got anything on that one, JD?
On their defense, it was absolutely phenomenal. But part of what makes it so good, and Jay Lucas was also the defensive coach, and the height of Duke meant that the reach on defense, every player, when they have their hands out or they're going for the ball, their length it's not just Malowich.
Nope.
Obviously at center is ridiculous, and they'll always point that out. But, the guards are long and lanky in their ability. So 5 players like that took Alabama from 112 points or 113 points to 65 That'd be a fall off of 48. If my math is right.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because I thought of more things about the Duke defense. So because as you said, their guards are big, it means that they can switch. And not only can they do that, their guards, especially Sion, he's I mean, you can't bully Sion James. Like, we all know that. Every announcer has described him as a linebacker throughout the season. I think we're all kind of tired of that comment. But because they can do that, and Malawach can go out and guard your guards. I mean, Mark, it was funny. Coach Oates made a comment about how he had Malawach on him and he didn't, take him. You try that, Nate Oates. See how that works out for you, because it's not a mismatch. The only time we've seen Malawach have trouble against guards were North Carolina, in specifically Cadeau, who is one of the quickest guards in the country. And Sears is not, he's strong, but he's not like an exceptionally quick or fast guy. And he couldn't create the space from Malawach. They also, when at times they were in rotation, I thought Duke's defensive rotation was phenomenal. When Alabama thought they had, a sliver of space, Duke's was able to, send the next guy, and everyone was helping. Somebody was beat, they were always helping the helper, and their rotations defensively were just on point throughout the entirety of the game.
I just wanted to say, just in case any of our Kentucky fans are still listening or tune into this, that my hatred of Kentucky, I used it, I think, when I did the little special that we did on the Sweet 16 and the history of Duke and Arizona in the Sweet 16. But I had heard the governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, say there's only two things in Kentucky that all of us agree on: that we like the University of Kentucky Wildcats and that we hate Duke. And I said,
I don't think even that's true, by the way, but go on.
And well, he's the governor, and
I know, but what about Louisville? What about Louisville fans?
I don't know. We didn't have to really. They never came to our show the way that Kentucky did.
No. I mean, for the governor, he says everyone loves Kentucky. The University of Kentucky. But what about the people in Kentucky who are Louisville fans?
I suspect, based on when he said it, Kentucky was going further in the tournament than Louisville did. I know it could cost them votes.
Certainly. If I was a Louisville fan in Kentucky, I wouldn't vote for him after hearing that. All right. Ryan Thornhill. We got a couple more here, and then I've got one more comment I want to make sure I say. Ryan Thornhill says, these guys are a special team. By far my favorite Duke team, top to bottom. Perfect complementary basketball and lockdown defense. Shutting the water off makes them wave the white flag. We've got some good ones today, guys. Shout out to all you guys in the chat. Yeah, another one. Well done, Ryan. Go Duke. For me, the only other Duke team that I can remember, because when I was 5, I remember seeing like the Jay Williams, Chris Duhon team, but I was 5. So the only other team that I remember that's close for me would be the 2014-15 Duke team with the Duke starting 5 haircut, and Tyus Jones and Justice Winslow and Emile Jefferson and Okafor and Grayson Allen. That's the only team that is comparable for me in how much I enjoyed watching them.
And I will say to you that this is more fun, but the team that won the back-to-back championships with Christian Laettner, Grant Hill, and Bobby Hurley. And Bobby Hurley, when he would put his hands on the floor, but people wound up hating Christian Leitner. They wound up hating Bobby Hurley. It's kind of hard to hate these guys. I mean, yes, they're Duke, but as individuals, especially when they're interviewed, they're as humble as could be.
Khan's got, I mean, both him and Coop, they've got a little, I'm sure if you caught him behind closed doors, you could get slightly different answers than what they give. They're well media trained, I will say that.
They're going to be lottery picks. You would hope someone's working on their media skills.
But they're just great like guys, and like in some ways, like it's been fun to watch them. I'm like almost a little bit jealous that we can't be a part of like in the locker room and hanging out with them. It just seems like a lot of fun. But they've given us so much joy, throughout the season that it's been special to watch them, and it'll be fun to watch in San Antonio. Jacob Golden, Blue Devils all the way. I believe they cannot be beaten.
6-game winning streak. We've said it all along. And it's going to be fun. And one of the really things that's great to win the Elite Eight is that we do get, as fans, especially winning on Saturday, we get Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then almost it's later, 7 days to just savor this and enjoy this and imagine the possibilities that are going to end with us cutting down the nets for all the reasons all of the people in the chat have said. So,
yeah,
it'll make for a great week.
Sure will. All right. Before I get to the next chat, I want to make sure there's one thing I've written down, which was I watched Coach Oates' pregame press conference for this game, and he was talking about they asked him a question about Cooper and recruiting, and he said he didn't waste his time going for Cooper. He got pretty clear indication it was probably going to be Duke, but and they mentioned this on the broadcast, he did try to get Con Knippel. And boy, I bet Coach Oates wishes he had a better NIL offer or something for Con Knippel, because he was the difference in this one.
Although watching Con play and thinking about his style of play, I don't know how he would have fit into. I mean, he's a great talent. You would try to figure it out. But watching this Alabama team, many times this season, it's hard to imagine him fitting in the way he fits into the Duke team.
It's a great point. I don't think he would have been this Con Knippel at Alabama. I think you're right.
No.
It was a great decision by Con and his family. So I think they did the right thing for Con, having him go to Duke, and we couldn't be happier to have him. I mean, what a great player. What a great player. Joe M.
I'm a slow guy. I may remember that comment forever.
All right. I'm not, he plays, all right, I don't even want to mention what I was going to say because it's not fair to Con, but he just plays at his own pace. No one speeds him up. No one slows him down. I mean, I guess he plays slow, as he said, but he just has a knack for getting to his spots when he wants to. And they've talked a lot about him playing, in his father's men's league. I think that may have helped. I just don't think it's something you can really coach. I think a lot of guys, most guys, don't have that.
I think what he meant in the interview is, I'm a slow guy. He didn't mean I am slow running up and down the court. I think he meant that he is able to slow the action on the court down in his mind to see what the best thing is for him to do. And it's slow like in simple. It's not slow as in speed.
Yes, and that, I mean, nobody pump fakes more than Con Knipple. Nobody. And that's the beauty of his game. There's nothing flashy. It's pump fakes. It's methodical, and he gets to his spots. And we are, I don't know, 38 games, 37 games. I've lost track. It's 12 o'clock into the season, and he's gotten better as the year has gone on. No question about it. Joe M. You mentioned this a while ago, Jack, but you are absolutely right about Malawach's soccer background helping his defense. His footwork on the perimeter is great. Thanks for that shout out, Joe. I will shout out the video that Duke did on Malawach again, because he actually, it's funny. We all know he hasn't played basketball for very long. It's only been about 4 or 5 years that he's been playing basketball, and he makes a comment in there. It's like, basically he says, if you would have told him 6 years ago that he'd be playing basketball for Duke, there's no way he would have believed you, because he was a soccer player at that time, right? And this is a guy who went from playing. They talk about it in the video, but like he's so grateful to have an indoor basketball court. That's where he's coming from, because he had to play on outdoor courts for the most part until he got to, I forget exactly which country, but he was finally able to, in one country in Africa, finally having an indoor court. But like for him to go from a guy who didn't play basketball 5 years ago or so to where he is now is incredible. And I can't wait to watch his development over the next 5 years. But for right now, all that matters is the next Duke game. And Techman Dave says, let's go. Joe M says, also, can't remember off the top of my head, was that the same Alabama squad who went to the Final Four last year? Duke should feel good beating a team with that much experience. Let me think off the top of my head here, Joe. I know Sears was a part of the team, and he played better last year. They lost Aaron Estrada, but they replaced him with Phylon. Grant Nelson was a part of the team.
Holloway?
But he was not. He was an addition, so I think in some ways he made them better. I think Diobate was on the team. Youngblood was not. They had, who was it? Latrell Wrightsell, who's been out most of the year, was a starter for them last year. But I guess he replaces Wrightsell. Maury was an addition to this year's team. Aiden Sherrell's a freshman. Darren Reed's a freshman. I think, honestly, it's a better team. And their stats, especially their defensive stats, are better this year than last year. So there are a few different players, but I think if you ask Coach Oates, he would probably say this was a better team than last year.
Although I do want to just point out that they scored 113 in their last game, and they scored 65, and that's a difference of 48 points. It's just remarkable to me how good our defense was. But go ahead.
Phenomenal. That's a new adjective. I don't think I used that one yet. Laura Markle. I agree with JD that the other favorite is the back-to-back champs with Leitner, Hurley, and Hill. This season is my favorite team since that championship team. And then Laura asks you, JD, where were you when Grant Hill threw the ball across the court to Christian Leitner to get the winning shot against Kentucky in the Elite Eight?
I know exactly where I was. I was at a political fundraiser, and I had taped the game. And there was no, like, iPhones that were able to tell you what happened. And so I came home late from the fundraiser and put in my VCR tape to watch the game. And so I had to miss it live, but I said, no one tell me what the score is or what happened. And then I got to watch it, but a little bit later. So I was in New York City. So
let me ask you something, because before you said that, I had this memory, but sometimes your memory isn't so spot on, of watching, on VHS. It's been a while. Leitner shot. Is that possible? You still had it, when I was younger?
I had it for many years, and do you know what happened to it? It was in the house for years while you were growing up.
Yes, taped
Mom
over
took
it.
to tape ice skating because your mother used to be a figure skater on the Olympic track. No, no BS there until she blew out her ankle. And where was she tonight? She wasn't watching the Duke game. She was in Boston watching the world competition and sitting about 10 rows off the rink. But so she taped over it. I had it for years.
Well, thankfully now we're in the YouTube era, so you're all
Anyone
right.
could watch it.
Yeah, anyone can watch it. Um, and okay, I got one more dig I want to make sure I get off. Lawrence Freeman, though, it's going to be nice listening to everyone talk nicely about this squad all week. And Joe M says that's a great story, JD. It sure will be. It sure will be, Lawrence, and it'll be nice. And then after this beating of a top SEC team, and I'm glad you said that, Lawrence, because it reminded me of one more thing I want to say about Coach Oates, who, I think he's a good coach, but he does give out some bulletin material, and he made several comments throughout the year talking about they had more top 25 wins than the ACC combined. And then going into this game, in his press conference, he made a comment about how, Duke wasn't as well tested. They didn't have to play the teams that Alabama had to play, and maybe he can answer. I'm just curious how that worked out for him in this game, because it didn't seem to help Alabama's defense that they had to go up against some of these other very good teams. It seemed like they still had some work to do.
I know midweek I will be posting as part of Talking Ball, like I did for the history of the Arizona and Duke in the Sweet 16. I'm going to talk about Duke's history in the Final Four, and that'll take us back to that championship back-to-back years, which was great because they had lost to UNLV. UNLV had won the championship, and they went into playing against UNLV for the first championship as major underdogs. And it was just great. It was just great. But I think how they got there that year was the Kentucky game. I'm older than you, so I can't exactly remember all of this stuff.
Well, I can't remember it at all, so
Well, wait a second. In fairness, in the in the YouTube, you could piece it together.
But it's different. It's totally different. It's not the same. It's just not the same. This is okay. Now, Laura says, I watched it live, talking about the Leitner shot. I was babysitting when it happened. I yelled when Duke won, and I scared the little girl I was babysitting. That's a good story, Laura. That's a great story.
It is amazing as Duke fans, at least the older ones, Jack, I'm not referring to any of our listeners, just you and I. Yep. It is amazing that we can remember that moment, and it's one of those things in our lives to say, where were we? And Laura remembers, I remember, other people who are, probably watch that game they'll never forget it. It's the shot that is shown every time March Madness comes around.
Yes, and then we'll see a lot of it this week.
Oh my goodness! Oh my god! It'll be like someone throwing the ball, and it could happen again. You could easily see the way that that Coop hit that 3-pointer at the end of the first half against Arizona.
Yes.
That someone inbounding the ball, if we're in that kind of situation, will look for Coop at half court, and Coop will turn around and hit it, and that will be the new version, because I know we keep going back to show that version, but of Leitner hitting it.
We'll see. All
But
right.
I hope it's not that close.
Joe M says he loved the history video the other day. Glad.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that, Joe. So, JD, you're our historian. You will be covering Duke history from now on. That's your role. And I think with that, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Please like this video. And we will have the Duke versus Houston or Tennessee. Let me see before I sign off what time that game is going to be tomorrow, because we all want to watch that. That's at 2:20 tomorrow. Nice afternoon game, so we can sleep in for those of us who can. Wake up tomorrow early afternoon and watch Houston and Tennessee. And no matter what, we're going to get a great defensive team that we're going to have to play, a physical team, and then in the Final Four. But that's what you want. You know, this time of year, you want to play the best teams, and I think Duke is the best team, and it'll be exciting to be able to prove that once more. So we will see you guys for the preview of that game, probably Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, and excited to be dancing into the Final Four. Any final thoughts, JD, before we wrap up?
It's going to be a good week.
That's right. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Peace.